When you hear the words Muslim woman, what comes to mind? A figure shrouded in silence? A life confined by tradition? Let's pause that image. And let me take you on a journey beyond the veil into the lives of women who defy stereotypes, rewrite narratives, and carve their own paths. This isn't a story of oppression. This is a story of power. Let's talk about choice. The hijab, often reduced to a symbol of control, is as diverse as the 1 billion Muslim women who wear it. For some, it's modesty. For others, a cultural badge. For many, it's resistance. But here's what the headlines miss. 92% of women in Iran are literate. Not just reading and writing. They're leading in science, technology, engineering, and maths, graduating in engineering and medicine at rates rivaling the West. In Indonesia, 81% of women are literate, building startups, directing films, and coding apps. The veil? It's not a blindfold. It's a lens through which they see and shape the world. Then there's Malala Yousafzai. Shot at 15 for daring to go to school. Survived. Became the youngest Nobel laureate in history. They thought the bullet would silence me, she says, but my voice grew louder. Today, she fights for girls' education globally. But Malala's not an exception. She's part of a legacy. Take Hibah Rahmani, a Palestinian-American engineer at NASA. Her calculations help spacecrafts pierce the cosmos. Or Dr. Hayat Sindi, a Saudi biotech pioneer who invented a device to diagnose diseases with a drop of blood. In science, there's no room for stereotypes, she laughs. The microscope doesn't care if you're in a hijab. And in Yemen, a country scarred by war, Shadia Thabet became its first female mayor. She ran for mayor. Not in a bustling city, but in her hometown, a place where bombs had turned streets to rubble and hope to ash. They told me women belong at home, she says, her voice steady as the desert wind. But when your home is gone, you realize you are the home. You rebuild, and rebuild she did. Schools, clinics, water systems. Today, her town isn't just surviving, it's thriving. Leadership isn't about gender, she insists. It's about showing up when others look away. While bombs fell, she rebuilt schools, dug wells, and rallied her community. They said a woman couldn't lead. She shrugs. But crisis doesn't check your gender. It checks your courage. Here's a number you won't hear often. 22. 22 Muslim-majority nations have been led by women. Pakistan elected Benazir Bhutto in 1988. Shadia's story isn't unique. Across 22 Muslim-majority nations, from Senegal to Bangladesh, women have risen to lead. In 1988, Benazir Bhutto became Pakistan's prime minister, steering a nuclear power through political chaos. In Indonesia, President Megawati Sukarno Putri reformed education for 270 million people. In Tunisia, women hold 31% of parliamentary seats, higher than France or the UK. These women didn't wait for permission. They rewrote the rules. Decades before the US or UK had female leaders. Indonesia, the world's largest Muslim nation, had President Megawati. Bangladesh, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. These women didn't just break glass ceilings. They shattered entire skyscrapers of expectation. Yet the real revolution isn't just in parliaments or labs. It's in everyday acts of defiance. The Moroccan surfer riding waves in a hijab. The Afghan robotics team building solar-powered cars. The Nigerian filmmaker winning Oscars. The Syrian refugee turned YouTube chef, sharing her recipes with millions. What does strength look like? Is it loud? Is it silent? Is it wrapped in tradition or blazing a new trail? For centuries, the story of Muslim women has been written by others, painted in broad strokes of pity or fear. But today, we're flipping the script. This is a story not of what the world thinks they are, but of who they've always been. Let's begin in a place where crisis and courage collide. Let's talk about numbers. Not the ones used to marginalize, but the ones that liberate. In Iran, 92% of women can read and write. Not just names or verses, quantum physics, neural networks, Persian poetry. At Sharif University, women dominate STEM fields, outnumbering men in engineering. In Indonesia, 81% of women are literate, launching startups that turn seaweed into biodegradable plastic. In Saudi Arabia, women's university enrollment has skyrocketed by 300% since 2005. The stereotype of the uneducated Muslim woman? The data obliterates it. Now, let's shatter another myth. The idea that Muslim women are confined. Meet Sobia, a Moroccan surfer who rides waves taller than minarets. People see my hijab and think I'm drowning, she laughs. But the ocean doesn't care what you wear. It cares if you respect it. By day, she's a marine biologist. By dawn, she's teaching girls to surf. The hijab? She shrugs. It's my flag. My freedom? Freedom isn't the absence of tradition. It's the power to choose your tradition. Speaking of choice, let's talk about the hijab. Reduced by outsiders to a symbol of oppression, it's as diverse as the women who wear it. For some, it's modesty. For others, identity. For many, it's rebellion. In Nigeria, the hijabi fashion revolution has turned headscarves into art. Bold prints, intricate drapes, a middle finger to Western beauty standards. They say, "Free your hair," designer Aisha Musa quips. "Honey, my mind is free." That's what scares them. And it's not just fashion. In France, hijabi athletes dominate basketball courts. In Egypt, women in niqabs win national debate championships. The veil isn't a muzzle, it's a megaphone. But to understand today, we must revisit yesterday. Centuries before hashtags and hashtags, Muslim women were scholars, warriors, rulers. Take Fatima al-Fihri, a 9th century Tunisian who founded the world's oldest university in Morocco. Or Razia Sultan, the 13th century queen of Delhi who rode into battle armor-clad. Or Nana Asma'u, the Nigerian poet who educated thousands of women in the 1800s. Their legacy? Not dust, blueprint. These women didn't break barriers. They built bridges between faith and reason, power and compassion. Now, let's meet them all. A refugee, a widow, a mother of 3. But in this camp, she's known as anti-code. Using donated laptops, she's taught 200 kids programming, HTML, Python, even AI. War took everything, she says, but it couldn't take our future. Last year, her students built an app connecting refugees with jobs, over 5,000 downloads. They call us victims. Amal shrugs, but victims don't code, survivors do. Innovation isn't born in Silicon Valley, it's born in survival. History lessons often skip a pivotal truth. Much of the West's Enlightenment was lit by Muslim women. In medieval Andalusia, Lubna of Cordoba was the caliph's chief librarian, curating 500,000 books, while Europe slumbered in the Dark Ages. Astronomer Mariam al-Astrulabi crafted precision astrolabes that guided explorers like Columbus. Their names faded, but their light still guides us. Progress isn't linear, it's a spiral. We circle back, relearning what our ancestors knew. Now, let's talk about muscle, not just physical, the kind that bends steel and stereotypes. Emirati weightlifter Amna al-Haddad. Once a journalist, she traded her desk for dumbbells, becoming the first hijabi in international CrossFit. They said I'd fail, she grins. So I got stronger? Strength isn't about weight, it's about will. And Muslim women have it in spades. Which brings us to art. For too long, Muslim women were framed as canvas, not artists. Enter Tanzila Khan, a Pakistani writer with cerebral palsy whose novels sell out in hours. Or Shirin Neshat, the Iranian photographer whose work hangs in the Met. Or the all-woman Sufi band in Sudan, turning prayer into punk rock. Their message? We're not subjects, we are storytellers. Art isn't escape, it's excavation, digging up truths buried by prejudice. So what does a Muslim woman look like? She looks like possibility, like a 17th century queen and a 21st century coder, like a surgeon and a surfer, like a woman in West or East. The veil was never meant to hide them. It was meant to make them look closer and stronger, to see beyond fabric into futures being built, brick by brick, bite by bite. The next chapter isn't written yet, but rest assured, Muslim women are holding the pen.